Of course, that's concerning, and obviously the department will be doing its thorough investigation into those kinds of concerns. I'm always worried about children in care.
Tonight, Minister Patty Hajdu reacts to APTN's investigation into an Ontario child welfare agency.
I need to be there, not only for my baby, but for myself.
An Edmonton daycare owner is charged in an infant's death.
There's a lot of performing artists. We got some theater artists, we got some writers, some people who are scholars.
And the Squamish Nation brings ceremony to Vancouver's Stanley Park. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Reaction continues to pour in after APTN News reported on how a child welfare agency for First Nations children in Northern Ontario employed convicted sex offenders. Witchy-Ituwin Family Services is located in Fort Frances, about 350 kilometers east of Thunder Bay. The story also found that Witchy-Ituwin failed to do background checks on foster families, resulting in First Nations children being placed in the care of sexual abusers. Asked outside Cabinet Tuesday morning about the Child Welfare Agency and its problems, Indigenous Services Canada Minister Patty Hajdu had this to say.
Well, in general, this is what the purpose is behind the legislation to restore family and child services, to prevent those kinds of ongoing horror stories that we've heard throughout generations of children in care who have not been cared for properly. But yes, of course, that's concerning. And, obviously the department will be doing its thorough investigation into those kinds of concerns. I'm always worried about children in care. I mean, listen, the best place is for a child to stay in community with family. That's not always possible, but the legislation that we have and the work that we've been doing with communities like Wabsamung and Opitchawan and Quebec, these are the kinds of success stories that we'll hopefully start to see more and more that will reduce the numbers of children in care.
And for much more on this story, you can go to aptnnews.ca and read about the troubled history of Witchy-Ituwin Family Services. To Digby, Nova Scotia, where provincial court were hearing closing arguments today, where 3 Mi'kmaq fishers are facing charges of illegal fishing. However, they say it's their treaty right to earn a moderate livelihood. Angel Moore has that story.
Earlier in this courthouse, 3 fishermen of the Sabaganagati First Nation appeared in court. They have been charged for fishing lobster without tags, fishing over the food social ceremonial limit, and violating the Fisheries Act. Lawyer Mike McDonald represents the 3 men and says their harvest is a treaty right authorized by the band.
All Aboriginal rights, according to the Supreme Court of Canada, is that they're communal rights. And so the authorization to fish came from the band. Both the fishery manager and former chief both stated that the band at the time that my clients were arrested, they were authorized the band to go out and fish for a moderate livelihood, and that's exactly what my clients were doing.
The charges stem from almost 4 years ago when James Nevin, Logan Piero Howe, and Leon Knockwood were harvesting lobster to earn a moderate livelihood. That's when officers from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans met them at the Sissebu Wharf in southwestern Nova Scotia.
They shouldn't have charged us in the first place, and I think it's just a tactic to try to slow us down and, discourage us, but I've continued to keep fishing ever since, this charge happened, so it's not stopping me.
Last month, Nevin fished under Sabaganagati's treaty fishery, harvesting lobster to earn a moderate livelihood, a right he says the court should recognize.
I hope the judge makes the right decision to, prove that we aren't guilty for what we did, because we're doing the same thing, like I said previously, and we're innocent.
Presiding Judge Timothy Laundrie has reserved his decision till next January. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Digby, Nova Scotia.
Thanks, Angel. The Senate Committee on Aboriginal Peoples continues to review the effects of the cannabis law on First Nations. It's been 4 years since marijuana became legal in Canada. The upper chamber heard from representatives of 2 First Nations about their challenges. Chief Darcy Gray of Listagouche Mi'kmaq First Nation and Dwayne Nashkawa of Nipissing First Nation discussed similar challenges when it comes to recognition of First Nations jurisdiction. It's a struggle for business. According to Senator David Arnott, past witnesses have said that their bottom line is hurt from systemic and institutional racism. Chief Gray agreed.
That's been our experience, and not specific just to this industry, but just about any industry where it becomes a jurisdictional battle, or if we go out and say want to participate, increase our participation in forestry or natural resources or fisheries or whatever it may be, the intervention may not be to deny us that right or access, but the market gets shut down or it gets deemed illegal.
The Prince Albert Grand Council will be exploring new policing options for several Saskatchewan First Nations, thanks to a new agreement. The partnership between the Council, Saskatchewan and Canada will see the creation of an implementation plan in 28 communities. The plan aims to improve public safety and policing in those communities. The new partnership will also form an implementation team that will provide tailored services for each community, like RCMP and tribal police. That team will begin engaging with communities in early winter.
We have 28 communities, and we have unique challenges with each of our First Nation communities. What happens in Fond du Lac might not be the same down here.
The Manitoba Metis Federation says it continues negotiating what they call a modern-day treaty with the federal government. David Chartrand is the organization's longtime president. He spoke with APTN News at their recent annual General Assembly in Winnipeg. Chartrand says the treaty will be approved by next year. One issue on the agenda is taxation.
It then will deal with a variety of aspects pertaining on your self-government, pertaining to matters, i.e. like taxation. We'll work out as that look to the Métis Nation. Where do we fit in to the taxation world of Canada? Is there to be exemptions, or will they be return revenue from the taxation that our Métis pay? How will we work these? That's the dialogue that's happening right now. So the treaty is going to have a very big impact in Canada. It's to be the first ever modern-day Métis treaty of its kind.
A day home operator in northern Alberta has been charged with second-degree murder in the death of 7-month-old Oakland Cunningham. 29-year-old Kyra Renee Bax of High Prairie, Alberta was arrested and charged on October 15th. She was operating a day home where Oakland was staying. An autopsy confirmed the infant's death was a homicide. Bax is due in court on October 24th, and Oakland's mother says she will be there.
I need to be there, not only for my baby, but for myself. I don't think I'd live with myself being at home and having all this court stuff going on.
We want to hear what you have to say about this or any other story. Here's how you can continue that conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. An Inuk actor who was accused of sexual misconduct by his peers has now been stripped of his Order of Canada. Back in early 2020, actor Johnny Isaluk was accused of sexual misconduct by a Nunavut filmmaker, and her allegations were later backed by other performers. None of the allegations have been proven in court. Isaluk had been awarded the Order of Canada in 2015 for his contributions to sport and performance. Now, Governor General Mary Simon has removed Isaluk from the Order of Canada effective August 31st, following the recommendation of an advisory panel. The mayor of Nunavut's capital resigned this afternoon in a series of tweets. Ken Bell took to Twitter after discussing with my family and friends, I've made the decision to resign my position of mayor of Iqaluit as of today. He did not immediately respond to a request for an explanation. The now former mayor was in Reykjavik, Iceland last week for the Arctic Circle Assembly and resigned upon his return to Nunavut's capital. One delegate to the conference told APTN News the Bell was a no-show for a panel he was supposed to be present at. City of Iqaluit officials confirmed that Bell did not attend the session and has offered to repay the city the cost of the trip. Bell rose to national attention during last year's Iqaluit water crisis, where the city was without drinkable tap water for 2 months. A life-saving donation. Coming up, two brothers reflect on a kidney transplant milestone. Welcome back. Two brothers are celebrating a milestone anniversary today. 10 years ago this week, Fisher River Cree Nation's Kevin Satie received a kidney from his older brother, Craig. And they join me now. Kevin, Craig, thanks so much for being with us to talk about this incredible story. Kevin, let's start with you. What has your brother's donation meant for you?
I think the biggest thing for me is like the improved quality of life and being able to spend time with my kids. I have 2 kids now, a boy and a girl, and they're very young. So, you know, I'm happy that I'm healthy enough to be able to take care of them and look after them and spend time with them. And so I think that's been the best thing, just to have that extension of life and to be able to be with my kids.
Absolutely. Craig, a big decision for you. When you heard your brother needed a kidney, was there any hesitation on your part?
No, there wasn't really much hesitation at all to kind of jump in and really get tested. Really was the first step of it. So I think, taking those first steps to get your blood test and your tissue test first, and then seeing if you're actually a viable candidate to be a living donor was really the first step. And then, once those ones were taken, then really jumping into some of the testing after that took place. So it was, it took about a few months for the full process to be completed, to actually find out that I was the best match to be a donor for Kevin. So, but otherwise, no, really, being an older sibling to Kevin and seeing the kidney, journey, really was really, I think, a big part of being a big brother, being a helper, and being now a life giver in some senses.
Absolutely. Craig, what would be your advice to someone who is considering making a donation?
My advice would be to, research about, the local transplant clinics that's in your city, and, the places that you would be able to donate a kidney. You can reach out to them to get contacts and also information about being a donor, and also that, there's a lot of people who are living donors as well. So, if you do happen to know somebody or see somebody in the news or other, kidney health organizations, to reach out there and maybe connect with somebody who's been a donor. And, I'm sure there are many other people who'd be happy to share, their experiences on being a donor and the process that's gone through. I know I've had a few people reach out to me about that, and I've had those conversations. So,
Kevin, well, for both of you, but Kevin, for starters, why did you want to speak about it so publicly in this current campaign?
I think part of it is, you don't want to see people suffering, in dialysis, and, people have families, people are part of communities, and, if somebody's suffering with end-stage kidney disease, we want, our community members, our people, to be able to live longer. So that's why these living donations are so important. And, we don't want to see our people on dialysis. And just from my own personal experience, like it's hard, it's hard to be on dialysis for years, and you feel sick, and it affects your mind. It affects a lot of things. So I think it's important for us to share our stories, to maybe inspire somebody to give to a family member or a community member, or even just to donate anonymously, because those anonymous donation stories are incredible. And I'd encourage people to check out the greatactions.ca to hear some of those stories, and check out some of the photos from people who've donated to see their scars and to see their pride and their happiness and what they've done.
Well, Kevin, Craig, glad that you have decided to speak publicly, and appreciate you both taking some time to join us here to talk about it today. Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Time to step aside for a quick break. Still to come, Stanley Park hosts the Squamish Nation as they celebrate culture and knowledge.
Full circle allowed me to kind of design this project. And it was designed in a fashion that would lead us to where we could appreciate the ancestors' teachings and the ancestors' way of life.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And Susan Hare sent in this photo. Looks like this poor guy's been waiting some time for a canoe ride at Emchinging First Nation, located on Manitoulin Island, located in Lake Huron. Thanks, Susan. Happy Halloween. We want to see your photos. You can email to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 17 with showers in Halifax and Fredericton. +6 with rain in Kuujjuaq, rain in Nain and a high of 2. 12 in Montreal, 8 for Chibougamau. Snow and +3 in Sault Ste. Marie, snow and +5 for North Bay. 8 is the high for Thunder Bay, +6 in Sioux Lookout. In northern Manitoba, 8 in God's Lake, 10 for Norway House. 9 with showers in Winnipeg, 14 in Dauphin. Sunny and 17 for Regina, Estevan and Saskatoon. 11 in Uranium City, 19 for Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, 18 for High Level, 19 in Grand Prairie. Sunny and 20 for Edmonton, 24 under the sun in Lethbridge, 18 in Vancouver, 17 for Kamloops. Showers and 13 in Prince George, rain and 14 in Smithers. -2 with snow in Old Crow, 11 with rain in Whitehorse. 9 and showers for Yellowknife, cloudy and 5 in Norman Wells. -12 in Sax Harbor, +2 in Colville Lake. +2 with snow in Chesterfield, 3 in Arviette. -9 with snow in Resolute, -1 with snow in Igloo Lake. A project that brings together ancient knowledge and tradition with artists is nearing completion in Vancouver. And as APTN's Tina House tells us, the Catchton project, which took place in what is now known as Stanley Park, is bringing back pride to the participants.
As each paddle hits the water, these 10 artists are learning about the meaning of culture and unity. The Catchton project, created by Full Circle First Nations Performance, teams artists with Squamish Nation elder Sapulak Bob Baker, who takes them on 4 different canoe journeys, each time teaching the group about place names, legends, and the history of the Squamish Nation. And with traditional protocols in place, including asking permission to come to shore, the artists are welcomed. As Hereditary Chief Ian Campbell explains, this is a very important location to his people.
Kwai, one of our ancient villages of our Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh families here in Vancouver. It's an honor to welcome our traditional canoes. Quaquamton is the name of this canoe, arriving with my uncle Saopalik as the skipper and our Full Circle family, canoe full of artists, continuing the tradition of telling stories in these lands.
Joshua Jackson is the project lead.
There's a lot of performing artists. We got some theater artists. We got some writers, some people who are scholars, like a couple of people with their master's degree. You know, we wanted to kind of open it up to a wide variety of artists to kind of get different perspectives of where they come from and where they create from. And that's why we wanted at Catchton to just open it up for these artists to kind of explore it from their perspective and then create from that, take what they learn and then create from there.
And for Sapulak Bob Baker, he's proud to share his teachings from his nation.
Full Circle allowed me to kind of design this project, and it was designed in a fashion that would lead us to where we could appreciate the ancestors' teachings and the ancestors' way of life.
For Sierra Baker, who's one of the 10 artists, she is a model, dancer, and now focuses her career as an Indigenous urban planner. She says she is grateful for this opportunity.
My people are from here, from Kwai, so right now we're standing at Kwai, where there is a huge longhouse here, 200, 300 feet long, that unfortunately the city of Vancouver destroyed intentionally, and they destroyed all our villages here. and our way of life. So being able to be out on that canoe and bringing that like way of life back, at least for me and like my people, and to learn from Bob Soplik, who's my relative, in this full circle project is a way for me to connect not only with my ancestors and like the teachings, but to work through that like interruption of colonization.
The event concluded with getting wrapped in blankets and a cedar ceremony to honor the 10 artists who will each present a piece of art showcasing their experience on the water. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
The first ever Indigenous person to lead the Canadian Medical Association is our guest tonight on an all-new episode of Face to Face. Dr. Alika Lafontaine took over as president of the CMA in August. He's a practicing anesthesiologist in Grand Prairie. Currently in Canada, only 1% of doctors are Indigenous.
I think one thing to acknowledge is we've never had more Indigenous physicians in the country practicing as we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we also have never had as many Indigenous physicians in leadership positions doing important work and working with communities as we do today. Now, that being said, 1% is much too low of a number, and we must do better. And I think a big part of that is making sure that our youth can see us in practice out there doing things and making an impact in communities.
And you can watch our full interview with Dr. Alika Lafontaine in roughly 2 minutes' time. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. And be sure to join us here tomorrow live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time when we put First Nations policing in focus. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.